Yo, what's going on, everyone? It's Chase. So today we are going to cover Bitcoin, Ethereum, and ES. We're going to start with ETH because it is the cleaner asset, and I can quickly show you why. We had a liquidity level resting here, right? Just show you a trade I took from last night. We go down to the hourly. We had this big up move, and then as this big up move was coming to a bit of a top here, right? You put in a low. Okay, watch this. You put in a low. You had a little hourly fair value gap in here combined with the sweep of the low. Okay, so sweep of this low combined with the hourly fair value gap right here. Let me just get my colors a little bit better. There we go. So sweep of the hourly low into the hourly fair value gap, and it goes straight to liquidity. Perfect trade. Extremely easy. All right. If you look at Bitcoin, looked like some, I don't even know. It goes up, it sweeps the highs right away. So you don't have a target, right? That's the problem here. If you don't have a target, it's hard to take an entry. So on Bitcoin, you really didn't have much of a target. You know, you could have targeted the local SR, but that's not nearly as clean as just targeting this liquidity that you are pretty much certain at this point is going to come. Why? Because you're through this resistance, right? You're way through this resistance. You're strong through that resistance. So, you know that you're going to push up towards this liquidity. And Bitcoin just, it immediately went to target. The pullback was weird. You have a gap down here, but again, it's not based off of any liquidity sweep or anything. I just think when you zoom in on these charts and you look at this with this target and this entry versus this is ugly price action. This is clean. This looks more like, like a S&P ES to me. All right. So moving forward, let's clear everything off and let's talk about these in general. We'll just pull it to the weekly real quick. We always start on the high time frame, see what we're looking at. So for the first time in a long time, we've had a perfect sweep and rejection. Wow. Rather than chopping at the level for 8 weeks in a row before randomly dumping out of nowhere, we finally had just a clean liquidity sweep and rejection. Amazing. Okay. I really thought it was going to look something like this side where you get some time below, you get some deviation. I had drawn it out on Twitter just like this and then breaking down. But hey, sometimes market conditions change a little bit. So yesterday we had the big XRP news. Super bullish, everybody longed up here. We know that because the whole entire feed was saying, hold your longs, I'm long, max long, etc., etc., etc. Take a sip of water. But nonetheless, all that doesn't matter for local price action. So what do we see here? In my opinion, what we see is we see a sweep of liquidity, and typically when you sweep liquidity, the next thing you're looking for is simply liquidity on the other side. If we kept it extremely simple and extremely basic, that is how I see it. I would see, okay, we swept this, and now it's time to sweep this low, 1811. Okay, in here, you have a bit of a, you have your fair value gap in here. The way this looks, it doesn't feel like it's going to sweep immediately and go. It feels like it's going to be a bit more of a market inflection point, so to say, which to me means that this gap may not be a super simple sweep and go. It might be more of a fill the entire efficiency and test in and around here, more looking like this. So when we come down into here and test this, work this area a little bit around 1775. Okay. From there, like I said, that's sort of the market inflection point for me, which sort of just means, are we going to continue to be bullish, or are we going to change market structure here and go bearish? You could take a trend line on this and you could draw it. We could do it on the daily. I don't use trend lines often, but I do believe that this is a good place to use one just because it's pretty damn clean. So you have your start of your trend here. The trend starts, a tap, another perfect tap. Then you have liquidity below here. You have sort of your filling of the gap by around 1753. And optimally, in a perfect scenario, what we'll do is we'll, do some bullshit in here. We won't completely sweep it yet because that's too easy. We'll make the people suffer. Anyone who got short off of this, this little perfect entry right here, well, whoever the big entity was, they're fine. They're all good. But anyone else who got that perfect short, they're most likely going to suffer for a little while. In a perfect world, right? Maybe it just goes right away. But, optimally, we make them suffer a bit, whatever you want. Oh, it just doesn't sweep it. It doesn't sweep it. They're just in pain and agony for a couple weeks. And then we finally get that sweep of that low. So sweep of the low into the gap, into this major sort of, fully fill the inefficiency and a bit of a support and resistance right here, right? You had a bit of a inverse head and shoulders form here, and you have the trend line. And what would be perfect would be a little break of the trend line, and it's super bearish. It's gonna nuke, and then boom, some of this bullshit hanging out here, pop back in, and that's when we go, at least for this resistance at the minimum, right? That was the funny thing, is we didn't even tag this resistance on the way up, which makes me think that the move is not fully done. Just makes me think that this was just, a scam. It's a scam off of the XRP. Like I said on Twitter, I think anyone that has a decent understanding of price action, or if you trade ES, a market that typically provides some good price action. Shout out to our sponsor PrimeXBT. You can trade ES over there under the ticker SP500. But anyone who trades ES and sees stuff like this knows that you don't leave 8 lows behind. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You don't leave 8 lows untapped before doing a major move up like this. That doesn't make any sense. I've never seen it. At least you would have swept this low, right? At least you would have did that and then popped. I would have even have been okay with that. That would have been okay to me. But you don't leave every single low untapped. That's just a scam in my opinion. And I'm having confirmation that it's a scam by looking at this dump right now. This is confirmation of it. So overall, if I had to, go with my gut here, I think that we have swept liquidity. I think we're going to sweep this liquidity next. I think we're going to fill this inefficiency in here. That looks a little bit some bullshit in here like this. Fake out the trend line or something, and then come up into here. That's like 70% of my take profit or something. And then the rest looks towards weekly inefficiency, all the way up here, 2,700 or something. But I would not be holding the full position for some type of major breakout. This type of stuff, people always call, bull market's coming, blah, blah, blah. Look, I don't give a fuck what comes. I'll leave a little bit of the bag open, but I'm not, it's just not me. I've never been the person to just hold the whole entire time. Ever since, ever since the COVID bull run, when I pretty much sold everything, that was it for me. Ever since then, I've just been short-term trading, and that's what is my style, and that's what's comfortable to me. I don't like being in trades for weeks at a time. Sometimes I have to be, but it's really not my style. But yeah, it is what it is. I'm trying to learn and grow at the same time, and because one day if I do have a lot more capital, I do need to be able to just sit on the daily chart or the weekly chart and say, hey, I can sit in this trade for a month, and it should go towards a major target. But that's something I'm still working on. But yeah, so that's thoughts on Ethereum. Moving forward towards BTC. So the main target is still untapped. This is still untapped, which makes me think we're not done. It's as simple as that. I had marked this out in the last video, I believe, these weekly gaps. Okay, weekly gap, it fills. Weekly gap, it fills. Doesn't fill completely, right? But it gives you near the 50% mark. Another weekly gap. So we get this into here. We get this into here. And who knows what we do in here? Like I said, I don't make predictions about where we're gonna go from the middle of chop. That's not where you trade. At least that's not where I trade. I don't trade from the middle of chop. I think it's stupid. So I don't care what the fuck it does in here. Dips into here, and then looking for it to take out this high. I think that's an obvious trade. Is it so obvious that crypto is going to screw it? Maybe so, just because that's the way crypto is lately. But I feel like it's a good trade. I feel like there's a lot of liquidity resting up here. I feel like if we were to move down in a major way, that there would need to be some distribution in here. So that means, and look at all these attempted breakouts. In all these attempted breakouts, I think people they're buying, and they're getting stopped out over and over and over again. You're filling the bit when they get stopped out. What happens? They get stopped out on their longs, so they're forced sellers. And they're forced sellers. You got your limit bids from your whales ready to go, and they all get forced out at market. The whales bids get filled up, and we move up. They distribute that final move, and then we go from there and see what happens. And again, it could go higher, it could go up to weekly inefficiency, but it's not necessarily something I'm looking for immediately. Okay, so BTC plan is just high time frame, fill the gap, go to here. For day-to-day moves and whatnot, I'm strictly focused on Ethereum. I don't think BTC trades cleanly on that clean on a day-to-day basis. I think it's worse than ETH, and ETH isn't that great to begin with. If you want intraday trading, you should really just look at ES, and like I said, you could trade it on Prime. And that's not even, I don't even say that because of the sponsorship. I say that because it's the genuine truth. I can show you ES real quick. So ES was putting in these highs, breakout, you get a perfect retest. So perfect retest long right there. I did take it. I did not hold it all the way up. I'd be lying if I said I did. But yeah, perfect retest right there. And then we go down to a low time frame for today. Actually, I can mark this out. I missed some of this in here. And then I had this high and this low. And the reason I had this high was because if you looked over towards the weekly, it was confluent with that. So you could see this high in here was confluent with this weekly one. But I prefer the local level. So I used the local level, which was this 4 hour. Okay. Trades from today. Someone asked me to talk about my trades from today. Yeah, very simple. The trade looked like this. So you deviated the high. Okay. So you had a high, right? You had a high. You deviate the high here. This is your impulse down. Okay. You deviated the high. That's your impulse down. On the 15-minute, you can see this here. Just taps right in there. If you go down to a 5-minute, you can see a fair value gap there. Okay. Target the lows from before the push up. Okay. And that was that trade. Let's see what it came out to be. I think it was like 2.5 or something. 2.2. Okay, so that was about a 2.2 risk reward trade right there. And simple concept, right? So sweep, displacement. Okay, you got to see the big displacement there. And then again, you could have either used the 15-minute high, you could have used the fair value gap, a couple different ways. You could have played it over under. Once again, big displacement you see here. If I came in late and I would have saw this over under, I would have got in here on this one, and I would have put the stop here, and it would have looked like that. I actually would have got even better risk reward there. So sometimes, I didn't even realize that, but sometimes, and I've been wanting to talk about this too, but make sure that you're not trying to put in local tops and bottoms yourself. Remember that you need to observe where the whale is going, and then simply just hop aboard like one of those, those little sucker fish that hang to the side of the whale and clean the whale. That's all of us, the aspiring traders. Especially if you're in the ES market. We're not putting in these highs, we're not putting in these lows. So let the move start to play out, look for the displacement, and then find your entry and go along with the direction that they're moving. Okay, so now the next trade from today was pretty simple again. It's the same concept, right? So I'll just remove everything real quick. We'll just mark out this high again. And we had this low right here of liquidity. I had low here of liquidity confluent with a support level. Okay, so I had 4-hour support marked out as this block right here, 4-hour support, right? Just so we can have a bit of context here. We move down even more. Low, okay, the low gets swept. Just how we did the top, right? So we had the liquidity level, right? This was his liquidity level. Swept it. Displacement. Okay, so we had the level, right? deviation right there, same as this. I forget the word I just used, but yeah, deviation. In here you have a market structure break. You just take the previous low's high. If we had to go down to like a 1 minute, we could do that. And you would see the market structure break is right here. So you take the low, previous low's high, right here. That's the previous low's high. We'll just bold that up real strong. And on the 5 minute, you could either, once again, you had market structure break as entry right here. And then you trade it to these 3 equal highs right here. 1, 2, 3 equal highs, 4, sort of like 4 equal highs right here, obvious liquidity. So you could either trade this as, again, a fair value gap in here on the 5 minute. You could have traded it as a market structure break. You could have went down to even lower time frames and got an even more accurate entry with a lower fair value gap right there. Perfect on the 3 minute. And so that's that. But in the reality, you don't really need to even get off the 5. You have a low, you swept the low, you deviated it, right? And we'll go back to the 5. You had a low, you deviated it. You had a high, okay? You had a high, you deviated it. You had a low, you deviated it. You have displacement, you come back into the gap, you come back down into the gap here, you target liquidity, and on this one, you targeted liquidity right here. It's the same thing, okay? It's the same exact trade, just on different ends of the market. You don't get that type of stuff too often with crypto. It will sometimes work. There was one on Bitcoin, I think it was today. I wasn't paying attention to it because I was watching I was watching ES. But yeah, right here, you have a little 2-hour gap. Plays into it pretty cleanly, dumps. So some of these concepts will work on crypto as well. But what I would say about crypto is it sort of depends on the context, whether we're bullish or bearish, high time frame. Because what I can tell you is that they haven't been working. Let me show you. So fair value gap, and you think it's bearish, right? Fair value gap bearish. But instead, it pushes through. It becomes an inverse. It provides support. And then also you had another one here. Potentially doing the same thing, maybe. So you had a 4-hour fair value gap here, rejection, but it just keeps beating on it until it pushes through. And this was the SEC news pump here, or the XRP news pump. I don't think it holds, to be honest. I think this is too ripe. But hey, we will see. This could just continue the range. I'm not going to put it past crypto right now because it has not, in my opinion, been that clean. It's just been, this. I don't see how you can argue with it. This is chop. This is chop. There was, how many good trades were there in here? Maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 if you were really, good at catching these impulses and not getting chopped up in here. How many times do you get chopped up in here waiting to catch that is the real question. How many times do you get chopped up in here waiting to catch that? How many times do you get chopped up in here waiting to catch this? How many times do you get chopped up in here waiting to catch that? So it has been just an overall pretty choppy market in my opinion. But yeah, I guess that's the thoughts. So we covered ETH, we covered Bitcoin. I showed you how some of the ES concepts can work in crypto, but I think the point to make, maybe I didn't say that, but I think the point to make is that if you're going to use these concepts in crypto, you want to use them during typically it's more or less like after sweeps, which is similar to ES, but during like a continuation. So like yesterday on ETH, like I showed you, just clean, strong impulse. When there's a lot of volume in the market, when there's a lot of interest in the market, that's when it seems like these things work. So yeah, like I said, you had your liquidity, you had your gap, just clean as day. And you go have a target from the weekly. Like you can't get any better in a situation like this. So you had a sweep, you had a fair value gap, hourly, target right here, placed perfectly. Should this have been a short? Again, I don't know because lately we've been pushing up above liquidity and just chopping it, doing fake breakouts and whatnot. And so, it was a little surprising to me that we dumped immediately. But yeah, so if you're gonna use those concepts, you use them more bullish low time frame continuation, maybe even bearish low time frame continuation. Depends the context of the market, the directional bias. If things look very bearish, I'm sure the bearish ones are going to work. If things look bullish, as you could see on ETH, the bearish ones have been stopping out. With that said, even when I did get stopped out on the one, I suppose we were, just to reflect real quick, this was a downtrend. So I don't know why that happened. This was a downtrend here, even though, but I guess if you take it contextually, going on an even higher time frame, we were still technically in an uptrend, even though this is a downtrend. So again, you have to have that directional bias, and maybe that was my downfall of this trade, is that I was more focused on this local area where it looked like it was just going lower lows, lower lows, lower lows, lower highs, lower highs, lower highs, and it just kept going down. And maybe I should have been more focused on the more macro picture. But hey, that's what trading is, right? We're all trying to improve and get better every day. That's why journaling is always good too. I don't see a lot of people talking about their journals. I know after, and we're not going to do a long discussion, but just real quick, I know that after you close a trade, if you're a winner, you're just like, oh, I'm the best trader, I'm a god, like let me open up another one, let me plan another one. And if you lost, you either want to revenge trade and get it back, or you want to just close the charts and say, fuck this, scam, whatever. Even though I said scam before, but in my opinion, this is pretty scam move. I mean, full move up, full move down, day after the same day. 2 days, full move up, full move down. I mean, tell me that's not a scam. With all these lows built up, like could have swept these lows right here and had some genuine strength behind this move. But you don't. When the fucking crypto market doesn't let anyone get aboard, how are you ever supposed to generate any genuine strength? That's why this market always fucking just scams all the way up and scams all the way down, because you never let anybody get an entry, a proper entry. And people will be trolling and blah blah blah. They're like, yeah, so everyone just FOMOs in. Like, you really don't know how to trade then if you just fucking FOMO along in the middle of nowhere. Go over to ES and try that shit. You'll get stopped out every single time you take a trade. Like, over there, liquidity and stuff actually matters a lot more, it seems. But yeah, no, you hit the journal up when you're done with the trade, rather than getting frustrated or revenge trading, or thinking that you're the best and immediately going into another one. If you take that like 10 to 15 minutes to put that journal in, there's a lot of benefits to it. Not only will you learn about what you could have done better, or what can be improved upon, what you did poorly, but it sort of like mentally resets you, so you're not euphoric, you're not depressed. You're just, okay, I paid a lesson, or I did great, pat myself on the back. I sort of view it as that. And it's a little like decompression time, discipline before you move into the next thing. It's almost like forced discipline. You sit there and you don't want to write. You want to be in the market, but for you to write actually takes discipline, and to depending on what you have. I usually talk about my entry criteria, what my target was based on, what type of risk reward it was, and then I have the result, whether it was 1R, -1R, or 3R. Then I have a lessons section where I write what I learned from it, and I try to do that for every single trade, and that has been helpful to me. Alrighty, guys. I think that's about it. Today was a little interesting, to say the least. I don't like coming across like the whole crypto market is a scam. But sometimes it trades that way, and I don't know what else to say about it. That's just how I feel about it sometimes. What I'm seeing here, just looking at this, it looks like we're going to do something like this. This sort of looks similar. Even though over here you actually, oh no, but look at that. You didn't take the 1760s. So you didn't take the 1760s. You come up, and this is fine. I actually wanted to short this. I think it was FOMC, but it came late or something. For some reason, I didn't get in, but if I remember it right, if that's the same move. But look, you didn't tag the 1760s. You scam right back down. You didn't take 1811 and all these lows right here. You didn't take any of these built up lows. And then, like I said when I was doing the analysis to you guys, I was like, oh yeah, it's gonna fucking chop and do nothing for a while, and then eventually sweep that shit, and maybe, a little bit of something like this. Just like I said, fill the inefficiency, work in here a bit, I said it might get worked a little bit, and then, go for your move there and see where we go. Okay, those are the plans. Hope this was helpful. As always, likes and retweets are very appreciated. Leave your comments down below. Yeah, it's all good. All right, thank you guys for tuning in, and I will talk to you soon. Peace out.